Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make It Mindful, the podcast where we explore how to keep schools relevant by looking through the lens of mindfulness and asking the question, what's really worth paying attention to here? My name is Seth Fleischauer. My co-host, Lauren Pinto, is on a break. But together we delve into the world of education by interviewing change makers and focusing on practical, transformative solutions for teaching. And this week, my guest is Lindy Hockenbary. Lindy, welcome.
Hi, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, nice to see you again. Lindy, could you start by please introducing yourself to our audience?
Yes, I'm a lifelong educator. I live in Bozeman, Montana, so I'm in the southwest part of the state. I am a product of Montana public schools, and I taught in small rural Montana public schools. My classroom was a computer lab, and that's what led me into working into technology integration and educational technology. Now I have EdTech consulting business where I help schools, educators, teachers unpack technology, do lots of trainings, sharing, writing books, everything I can do to help figure out the effects of technology on education and what happens in the classroom and how we can use it as a learning tool.
So how can we use it as a learning tool?
The $100 million question.
Yeah, I mean, I guess making that a little bit more specific is that, we talk a lot on this podcast about adopting technology in a way that's mindful, not just using technology for the sake of using it, but really using it for a purpose. And I'm wondering if there's a way that you think about that in your work. How do you advise people?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Don't just use technology to use technology. As a teacher, you have learning outcomes that you're trying to reach that are based upon your standards that you need to teach, right? And you need to figure out, how do I get from A to B? B being the learning outcome, right? How do you get your students to that learning outcome? Which instructional tools am I going to use to get from A to B? Sometimes technology, like Book Creator, I'm just throwing random examples out there of tools that I like, not so much random tools that I like. Maybe you do want to use Book Creator, but then maybe your next learning outcome that you look at, it doesn't make sense to use technology. Maybe the technology is even sometimes a hindrance towards meeting that learning outcome. And sometimes it might depend on the student. They don't always know how they learn best. So that's part of the adventure.
So I'm hearing that that it's kind of part science, part art. The science part is you've got an objective that you're trying to reach. You can kind of match the tool to that learning objective. You've got, even in assessing what a student's known qualities are, what their known preferences are for learning, what their known abilities are, you can kind of match those up with a given tool. But then there's what the student doesn't quite know about themselves yet, or might be surprising to learn that something resonates or not. And that's more of like an art. Do you think about this in terms of like science and art? Is it purely science? Is it just a matter of like having enough information to be able to make the decision, or is there some jazz when it comes to selecting the correct EdTech tool for the job?
Great question. I think exactly what you said, and I think it's Marzano that has the book, The Art and Science of Teaching, is absolutely correct. That we have the science part, we can look to studies, we can look to good pedagogy, to what to do, but we as teachers are making a literal million decisions every minute based upon particular students in our class, what's going on in that moment. Oh, this isn't going the way that I thought it was going to go. I need to switch gears and go some other way. And to me, that's the art of teaching. And the thing with technology, and I had to say it at some point, AI, right? Artificial intelligence, is that there is no research. This technology is so new that we don't have research that tells us what is good pedagogy when it comes to utilizing artificial intelligence. Somebody has to do the trial and error and do the art. And we will see more studies come along. We will get more of the science, but it doesn't mean that we can't ignore this technology that's changing everything in our world until the science comes.
One of the things we were talking about before we started recording here was AI literacy. You said that you're really leaning into this. This is a concept that's very important. I'm a teacher. I've never heard of AI literacy before. What are you talking about? Why should I care about it?
The way I'm thinking of AI literacy is it's another branch of the digital citizenship tree, right? So we've been talking about the importance of digital citizenship and teaching students to use technology responsibly for years in education. And as parents too, for those that have kids. And now AI literacy is just, it's like another branch. I feel like that's a way to think of it and make it more of a manageable thing. And it's basically the idea that we have to teach people to use this technology responsibly. And it's much more than that. You understand at a basic level how the technology works. We have to use it, right? So you have to be integrating it into your daily life. If you don't use it, you don't know how to use it responsibly. And as an educator, if you don't use it, you don't know how to teach your kids to use it responsibly, right? And then the third being evaluate that. Just like we've talked about media literacy for years, we have to know how to look at it and say, oh, I'm not sure that's quite right.
And I think what is concerning about AI there is that they don't often tell us the sources, and so they might be. Here's this trusted source of Google, all of a sudden is less trustworthy because they're scraping from the Onion to get their facts that they're putting in the AI summary. So I think, but again, though, what I really appreciate about the moment is that this powerful new tool, which does hallucinate, much like people do, which does give you false results, much like much of the web does, is really bringing to the forefront the need to have better media literacy. And when I say media literacy, it's AI, it's stuff that's on the web, but it's also stuff that's written in books. It's stuff that is on billboards. It's commercials. It's like, who are the people that are putting this information out there? What is their motivation? What do they want out of me? Like asking all these questions, having that moment of mindfulness around it, that moment of objectivity, I think is really critical for being able to pursue a better life of media literacy. And so I appreciate that AI is giving us that opportunity for it.
So yeah, I love what you said about media literacy and AI bringing it to the forefront. And I think the ultimate thing is we have to be very specific about teaching people how to be critical consumers. And that's not a new thing. Like I loved how you said that. It is not a new thing whatsoever. We've needed to teach this for a very long time. AI is it's bringing that to the forefront because it's bringing us information in new ways that we're not used to as humans.
I think the understanding is not just like understanding what it can do, but also how it does it, right? Yes. Understanding that it's just predicting the next word that comes along, understanding that it's scraping the internet for all of this information, that it's working on multiple levels at one time, that it's working in terms of meaning, but also in terms of grammar and syntax, and it's got all of those things going on at once. And then if you understand that, maybe you're less likely to anthropomorphize them. You're more likely to understand the results that it's giving you. The use, I think, is critically important of just like understanding what it can do, not just for you, not just in general, but for you specifically. From your vantage point, like, how do you think this is changing education?
The way I think about it and how I'm teaching educators for them to then teach their students is in order to collaborate with AI, which is where we're moving as humans. From this point on, we will never not collaborate with AI in some way or another, right? It doesn't mean like every second of every day we're going, like you said, there might be times if I have a really deep knowledge of something that where the technology currently is, it can't assist me or save me time in some ways, right? But a lot of the times we're going to have to think about that. In order to know how to collaborate with AI, you have to think about the when and the how, right? So you've got to know at when during accomplishing this task, whatever it is that I'm trying to accomplish, writing an essay, creating a podcast, whatever it is, right? When can AI help me? So there's still that foundational knowledge that we need to have as humans to identify the when. And then once you identify the when, you've got to identify the how, right? Like which tool am I going to use and which tool is right for the job. And you're not going to know that unless you interact and try different tools and figure out what it's good at, what it's not good at, where it can help me, where it cannot help me. And that's, nobody has the answers to that currently. Like people are trying to figure that out. I have spent hours upon hours upon hours in several different AI chatbots, still just trying to figure out, even in my daily work, like where it can help me, and then advancing that on to the effects of education. Like every time a new technology comes out, it's like we have to strap on our battle gear as education. We need to go educators and go stand on the front lines and like, I'm ready to fight the battle. Like we can't do that. It's not healthy in terms of well-being, and it's not what's best for our students and their futures and where their lives are going to, the technologies and how it's going to affect their lives, right? So instead, we have to think about changing the process, focusing more on process over product. And for example, with writing, we can't not use AI during the writing process and teach students how to use AI, right? Because it can be really powerful. For example, a lot of people struggle with writing. A lot of people struggle with writing. And a part of it, a lot of people will say like a blank page just intimidates me, right? I don't know where to start. I don't know how to organize my thoughts. Well, right there, AI can help a learner make an outline, at least get a start, give them a draft of something to start with that then they can learn how to go in and edit. But it takes a very mindful, thoughtful educator that understands how to do that, understands the technology in order to help guide students in determining how AI can best support them.
The question I think for me is, okay, so what about kids, right? And how young, right? Like, what are your thoughts on that in terms of when is too early to introduce kids to a technology like this?
Oh, great question. I have thought about this so much. I've had so many conversations about this. There are people out there that are in my shoes that are saying like, nope, like elementary kids, we shouldn't even do it. Shouldn't even go there. I don't agree. And my don't agree is followed by many, many months of thought and many, many conversations. Going back to the idea of AI literacy, right? We have to teach how to use responsibly. They're going to be using it at home, right? We went through this,
If they have access, yeah.
right? But they know how to use technology for fun. They don't know how to use technology for learning and productivity. So that's what we have to do in schools. And we can sit and debate on and on and on about whether this should be the job of educators, it should be the job of schools, but it is what it is. Like it ultimately falls on schools, which then ultimately falls on educators. And I think that's where we're currently at. So to me, I don't think we can set like kids, like the example of only kids after third grade can use this technology. That does not mean, I want to make sure and add this disclaimer, that does not mean that we don't make sure that the technology is safe, secure, age appropriate, developmentally appropriate. That is so, so, so important. And part of that is, again, having educators that understand the technology, that know the pros and cons, that can understand the limitations, to be able to choose the right tools that are developmentally appropriate for the different ages. So I think it's imperative to, in the school, have those conversations with kids of any age.
These tools clearly are going to be ones that are critical to people being able to do their jobs well, or many jobs well, in the future. And I think that denying them access to a tool like that at school is an equity issue. How we do that, I think that's the topic of maybe another podcast. But Lindy, thank you so much for coming here today. Where can our listeners find you on the internet?
Yes. So I am on all the social medias at Lindy Hockenbary, Lindy, and then Hockenbary is a Bary at the end. Tricky. And then check the show notes and you'll get links to my websites where you can connect with me there as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being here. For our listeners, if you would like to support the podcast, please do tell a friend, follow us, leave a rating or a review. Remember that if you'd like to bring positive change to education, we must first make it mindful. See you next time.